I'd like to welcome you to the January 4th, 2022 Grant Advisory Commission meeting. I'm Ellison Carroll, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. We will start with a roll call, please.
Chair Carroll.
Here.
Vice Chair Gibson.
Here.
Commissioner Acosta. Here. Commissioner Haywood.
Here.
Commissioner Kriz. Commissioner Leung.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Perez.
Here.
All right, would you all stand and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And then before we do public comments, I just wanted to welcome two new commissioners we have on our commission this evening joining us, Nina Acosta and Ryan Luong, who is the youth commissioner. So if you guys would like to just do a brief introduction.
Hi everyone, my name's Ryan. I'm a high schooler at Wood Creek. In my free time, I like to volunteer in the community, really give back in that way, and I'm really looking forward to being the youth commissioner this year.
Welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Nina Acosta. I'm a licensed clinical social worker currently working in Sacramento County. I volunteer locally at Hart's Landing Ranch, and I am very excited to be a part of this commission.
Welcome to you. Thank you both. We're very excited to have you guys join us. All right, so now is the time for public comments. Public comments will be for items that are not already on our meeting agenda. So at this time, if anyone does have a public comment, you can come to the podium and we can listen. All right, seeing no public comment, we'll move on. So the next item is minutes. The minutes from our last meeting are attached. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review those, and I will entertain a motion to either approve or make edits as appropriate.
This is Commissioner Perez. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Haywood seconds.
Okay, it has been moved by Commissioner Perez and seconded by Commissioner Haywood to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? All those who are in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please vote by saying no. The measure passes. All right, our next item is presentations, requests, and action items. And so the first one is approving the updated 2020, it's a mouthful here, 2022-23 CBF and REACH funding guidelines. And we had looked at those before, but the amounts have changed, and I will let staff share any additional comments that you want to make.
Exactly. Thank you. So as Chair Carroll mentioned, in October, we brought these to the commission and we approved the amounts that we had at the time. There were a couple of changes. One addition, there was some funding that was actually given back to the Grants Advisory Commission because of it wasn't used by the deadline. So luckily, we were able to take that funding and put it into this year's funding and increase it by just over $6,000, which is pretty exciting. And then we also had the REACH fund guidelines an increase as well because we received the employee contributions and they were more than originally estimated. So both went up just a bit, and now we have a little bit more to dole out this commission or this funding cycle.
Wonderful. It's always great to see things move in that direction. Are there any other questions or comments from the commission? And then this, we don't need to vote on this. This is just an information item.
This is set for approval, so a quick vote just to approve and update the guidelines with those additional funding amounts.
Okay. Well, I will entertain a motion to approve the updated funding amounts.
Commissioner Haywood, make a motion to approve the updated funding amounts.
Okay.
Commissioner Acosta seconds.
Okay, very good. It has been moved by Commissioner Haywood and seconded by Commissioner Acosta to approve the updated 22-23 CBF and REACH funding guidelines, including the updated funding amounts. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by saying no. The measure passes. All Okay, our next item is the application workshop for the 2022-23 Citizens Benefit Fund and REACH grant process. So we'll move into that. And I think we're ready for the PowerPoint. Okay, so welcome again, everyone, to our funding workshop. And I don't think I introduced myself before. I'm sorry. I'm Ellison Carroll, Chair of the Grants Advisory Commission. And we just wanted to kind of review in this funding workshop a number of different items. So we want to make sure applicants understand what funds are available, how to apply, clarify points, and most importantly, answer your questions. And we are only able to take questions from people in attendance here. I think we probably have a note later on, but in case someone is watching, because this is televised, and has a question, you would need to email that in to staff and to Tricia, and we can address those via email. But to begin with, we're going to put up a slide showing our agenda. We'll cover the following topics in this order. First, we'll provide an overview of each fund. Next, we'll go over the timeline and grant funding priorities for this year's grant cycle. We'll review the online submittal process, highlight application thresholds and disqualifications, provide an overview of the application scoring questions and scale, the required documents section, which we have revised this past year to reflect recently completed community needs analysis, which is actually similar to the process we used last year, and commissioners will also provide helpful hints for the process. Then we'll open it up to questions for applicants. In order to be the most efficient with our time, the chair will either answer the question or direct staff to answer, or if it's something we need to research further, we'll follow up. And then after all the questions have been answered, commissioners will provide a few brief comments about the grant cycle and application process. So the first fund is the Citizens Benefit Fund. The Roseville City Council established the Citizens Benefit Fund in 1993 with funds received from the sale of a city-owned Roseville Community Hospital. The City Council at that time voted to place the proceeds of the sale into an interest-bearing account and give 90% of the interest available annually to nonprofits for the purpose of improving the quality of life for the citizens of the city of Roseville. The remaining 10% is deposited back into the Citizens Benefit Fund to grow the principal. As you can see, this year's funds are less than previous years as the reinvestment of bonds took place at a lower market interest rate this past year, and the city did loan $1.5 million to Roseville businesses during the pandemic from the principal balance of the Community Benefit Fund. Approximately $277,913 in funds will be made available this funding cycle. Grants are made available to 501c3, 501c4, and private school organizations. Nonprofits must have a current business license. Private schools and school-based nonprofit associations are eligible and are limited to one application per individual site, and that's been the case in the past as well. The CBF grant goals are to assist in improving the quality of life for the citizens of Roseville. Then we have the REACH Fund. And this stands for, as you can see, Roseville Employees Annual Charitable Hearts. And this program is comprised of contributions by Roseville employees, retirees, and local businesses. We have $1,768 in funds available. The same eligible organizations can apply as the CBF, and the schools have the same restrictions, one application per individual site. REACH grants are to assist in improving the quality of life for youth, families, and seniors in Placer County. So it is a little different. And then one application, you only need to apply for one application through our ZoomGrants online grant system, and you can request funding from both sources. If you're requesting funds from multiple sources to serve both Roseville and Placer County, it would be helpful to describe your project. It would be helpful to describe in your project application and description how those funds will be split. For example, you could say you're requesting $10,000, $8,000 will be used for Roseville residents, and $2,000 would be used for residents outside of Roseville but in Placer County. So you've heard me talk enough. I'm going to hand it over to Vice Chair Michelle Gibson, who will go over the timeline and established grant funding priorities for this coming cycle.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming, and thanks for listening in if you're watching. So on the timeline, let's review some important dates to remember for the funding cycle. The ZoomGrants link for the application is currently available, and I believe it's been available since December 8th You've probably all looked at it. Applications must be submitted online via ZoomGrants by 5 p.m. on Thursday, February 3rd, 2022. Staff will review all submitted grant applications and ensure the required documents were submitted. Applicants without all the required paperwork will be disqualified. So pay attention to that. I think we rarely have to eliminate anybody for that. The commission has a meeting on Tuesday, April 12th, at which time we'll discuss funding recommendations. Funding recommendations will go to the City Council in May or June, and grant checks will be awarded at our Grants Commission meeting on July 12th. Final reports are due by August 31st in ZoomGrants for the prior funding cycle, 2021 and 2022. As most of you, if you applied last year, know that we modified our funding priorities based on the community needs analysis that was completed. And we as a group, we're going to stay with what we've decided, so it'll be very familiar to last year if you applied last year. The Grants Advisory Commission established and the City Council did approve the new grant funding priorities 2 years ago, as we talked about. And again, we as a commission have decided not to modify that and work with that criteria again this year. We have 3 priorities. One is strategic one-time grants for innovative projects or programs, capital improvements or new initiatives. That can be a need or a service or an opportunity in the community that could offer and enhance and improve quality of life for the experience in Roseville. It could be an innovative idea based on models from other areas or agencies and attempting to take a new approach in providing opportunity to enhance and improve the quality of life or experience in Roseville. Or a one-time request if applicants need special consideration on a single request basis. Operational mission support grants for programs or projects that demonstrate effectiveness addressing a community need. Grant recipient can reapply in the future years for this priority area. So your grant can say to assist this year and for future success of the program. And number 3, smaller requests up to $10,000, which can go towards either programs, projects, or supporting existing operations which have demonstrated effectiveness at meeting community needs.
Thank you. And now staff will go over some additional parts of the application with the online submittal.
Yes, so I'll be going over the online submittal. I believe there are a lot of you here tonight and some listening at home who are familiar with our grant process, but just in case we have some newbies or any follow-up questions, please feel free to email me questions directly at tisom@roseville.ca.us. It's not up there, so I'll say it again. T as in Tom, I, S as in Sam, O, M as in Mary, at roseville.ca.us. As Chair Carroll mentioned earlier, we will have a public comment opportunity for those of you that are in the audience tonight here in the chambers. But if you are tuning in from home, email me directly and I can definitely do my best to answer your questions. So a direct link to the ZoomGrants website is posted on the city's Grants Advisory webpage. All returning applicants must log in using their existing ZoomGrants accounts. Any new applicants will be directed to create a new ZoomGrants account. Applicants needing assistance with submitting their grant application can contact ZoomGrants directly at their toll-free number, which is 866-323-5404, or by accessing the help key that's posted on their website. I've actually emailed and called them, but they're very responsive. So if you have any questions about the website directly, definitely let them know. They're very helpful. The Commission also revised the grant application and review criteria 2 years ago with the goal of streamlining the process, as well as updating the scoring module that aids the Commission in the equitable evaluation of all applications. The committee put great thought into the relevance and applicability of each application question, the required documents, and the review criteria. So the review criteria for 22-23 grant applications is available on the city website. And next, we're going to go over the highlights of the review criteria and required documents in the application. So in accordance with the review criteria provided, the primary thresholds are there's mainly two things. Applicants have submitted all the required application documents and have a current business license with the City of Roseville by the application deadline. And the applicant has submitted required annual reports for the 2020-2021 CBF and REACH grant funding cycle, which were due August 31st, 2021. Any applicants this time around who did not apply or receive funds in 2020-2021 will not be required to submit that report. If these thresholds are not met, the application is automatically disqualified. As Vice Chair Gibson mentioned, that rarely happens. You guys are really good about getting your applications in and completed. So staff will review the applications for completeness and make that determination, and then we will notify you if your application for some reason does not meet the primary thresholds. And next, Chair Carroll will review the application scoring.
Okay, I think our slides were a little out of order there, but we're ready for the list that has the scoring and scale. Oh, yes, thank you. So the next portion of the review criteria is the application scoring questions and scoring scale. These will be used to review and score applications. Each question is aimed at valuing how the application meets local needs and objectives for maximizing community benefit with these funds, particularly through community engagement, leveraging, and collaboration. The questions and scale are provided for you on this slide, and a copy of the PowerPoint is available online with this information for your reference. So I'm probably not going to walk through each question, but when you're filling out your application, the questions you answer in your application aren't exactly these questions. These are what we use to score the application, but I would take these into account as you're writing your answers, because as we're evaluating, we're looking at these items and saying, did the application address each of these, and can we give it full credit or something less? So I don't know if you guys would like a minute to look at these, or again, we'll have public comment specifically for this, so if you have additional questions about these. Otherwise, our next item goes back to staff. But
Okay.
Another minute? Okay.
So we'll just move on. So under the Documents tab in the grant application, there's a list of the required documents that must be submitted as part of your application. I'm going to highlight the required document section here next. So if a document is required, there's a little checkbox or a little check mark that's marked in the required column. If the document that is required does not apply to your organization, you must still upload a document, label it with a not applicable, like NA, in front of the respective file name, and include an explanation of why it is not applicable to your organization. So unfortunately, if a document is not included and an explanation is not included indicating why this item isn't required for your organization, the application will be deemed incomplete and disqualified. So this part is really important. Explanations don't need to be lengthy. For example, if you're awaiting your 501c3 status, just provide that quick statement and any accompanying proof of a pending application. Really simple. If you're requesting grant funds for a capital expenditure or property improvement, the program requires a total of 3 bids for individual items costing more than $250 each. So this also is very important for private schools and nonprofit schools to know that this rule applies to your organizations as well. We understand that schools often purchase items under larger contracts, but even so, 3 bids are still required. If you're purchasing individual items, the required bids must be based on the cost of each item, not the project as a whole. For example, if you're purchasing a computer, a microphone, and a headset for each staff person, we would need 3 bids for each item being purchased. You can use the price of an existing contract as 1 bid, but you must also get 2 additional bids. This helps us ensure that the grant funds are being used as efficiently as possible, and online bids are acceptable. A signed board authorization must be completed and uploaded for each application. Please do not substitute with another form. It's very important that you use the template provided. And just a caution here to get started on requesting those signatures early, as this could be a time-sensitive item for your board to complete if they don't meet monthly. Grant organizations that are providing any therapy or counseling services must include their certification information that allows them to practice in that field, as well as include the number of volunteer hours being provided to that organization. Each organization is required to have a current business license on file with the City of Roseville, and staff will confirm your organization's current business license after the application submittal. And next, the commission is going to go over some helpful hints.
Thank you, Tricia. So just a little guidance on Zoom, because it can be a little testy if you haven't used it before, and then I invite my colleagues to add any other helpful hints and potential for you guys. Accessing the application, use the link on the City Grants page. Should take you right there. Hopefully you won't have a problem with that. You can set up your account, sign in. I know some of you use ZoomGrants for other applications as well. Your grant application will automatically save when you advance to the next page or click outside the text box. So don't worry about losing your work unless you exit all the way out. You can access your incomplete application up until it has been submitted. Once it's submitted, you can't make changes, so please make sure that before you hit that submit button, you're sure you're good. And most sections of the applications have instructions. You just have to do that show, hide, little click, and it'll show you some helpful hints on that too. Do any other commissioners have any other comments maybe on just helpful hints for the application itself?
I just wanted to add two things again relating to ZoomGrants. You can take the questions, copy them, then have them filled out in Word or whatever tool you use, because ZoomGrants will time out on you. I mean, it'll save the work, or if your computer crashes or something like that. So I think it's kind of a good practice to save the questions, fill it out in another application, and then you can just copy and paste back into ZoomGrants. I also would encourage you to make sure the email contacts that you provide in ZoomGrants are updated. We do email out communication through ZoomGrants, so if you have a generic email account that no one checks, or if you have a name of a person who's no longer with your organization in a few months and we're emailing out a reminder or a request for information or something, and that person's no longer there, then you guys may not get the information about it. So just encourage you to make sure your contacts in there are updated. I don't know if other commissioners want to share anything else.
Sure. Welcome, everyone, both here in the chambers and observing online today. Thank you for all the work that you do. I'm really excited to hear about the next wave of projects that you have coming up in this next cycle. One thing that is very helpful, we are not experts in your field, and it is very helpful to have the applications be as concise and as possible, trying not to use common acronyms, spelling things out. And I know that I hear echoing my head guidance provided by past commissioners, maybe even having somebody outside of your organization read the application before you submit it so that it's clear and it's understandable. We can clearly get a sense of what you're trying to accomplish. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no additional comments, then this is the time that we open up for public comment and for your questions. So we invite you, if you have any questions, to let us know.
Thank you. Gary McDonald, Lighthouse Counseling and Family Resource Center. I've done this for a number of years, but I have forgotten. In terms of counseling, what constitutes certification? Do you need copies of the licenses of the licensed LMFTs or the associates, or what? I forget exactly. Probably if I read it, I'd recall, but I don't recall now. I think some years you wanted the licenses, and then other years you didn't.
So I'm going to defer to staff. Do we have a specific answer? Is that something we need to follow up on?
I'll look at last year's application and see what we accepted from you, and whatever you did last year should be the same. But it says certification, so I would assume it would be licenses for anyone providing actual counseling services. But okay. I can get back to you on that.
Well, not everyone's a licensed. Some are associates, and then some are volunteers, which they're in their master's program. But anyway. Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
I'll take a look
because I think
at
it's gone back and forth, if I remember correctly.
And I have a question kind of related to that. If they have applied in the past years, I know we can see prior years' applications. Can the applicant see their own application if they've applied in the past?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that.
I think we can.
A couple nods.
Then you could probably see what you provided last year and.
Well, I think it's changed over the years. Some years you wanted the licenses, then the next year, I remember one year you didn't want the licenses. And
But I don't
so-
think from last year to this year it's
Nothing has
changed.
changed from last
So-
year, so.
I don't recall what I did last year, but I
Thing is, if you could probably go in and see what you did last year and use that for this year, unless someone's certification is expired this past year, in which case you'd have to update.
That's why we want to see new certifications every year, or updated certifications every
I'm
year.
not sure what we have outside of licenses and the certificates for the associates, but I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there other questions? Wow. So if you're watching, since we can only take questions here in person, just a reminder that you can email Tricia, tisom@roseville.ca.us. And if you have some specific questions, or if you in the room, as you're going through it, after this evening, have some questions, you still have the opportunity to email Tricia and we can follow up. All right.
Just to reiterate, because of all the evaluation we did and all the big changes last year, we decided not to change anything. So if you've applied last year, it's consistent and everything would be exactly the same. We didn't want to throw another curveball at you. So if you have applied before, you can just follow what you did last year and it should all be good.
Okay, well, thank you for your question. I'm now closing public comment, moving on to commissioners to offer any closing comments that they would have about the application process. If commissioners would like to provide brief comments to further assist applicants in submitting the best application possible, we can take a few minutes to do that, or we can otherwise keep going. So any other comments from commissioners?
This is Commissioner Perez. I'd just like to echo what Commissioner Haywood said. We're not experts in your field, and we definitely want to know about the good work you do. So break it down like if you were telling somebody in an elevator that has no idea. That would be helpful, rather than super high-level scientific data. Break it down for us. Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to remind applicants that tonight's workshop and a copy of this PowerPoint will be available to view online on the city's website. Also, from now on, we will make, from now until we make final funding recommendations in April, actually, I think until they're approved in July and distributed in July, we will not be visiting or touring any agencies. However, fundraisers and special events that are open to the public are fine for us to attend if we choose, and you're welcome to invite us to those that are public, events and fundraisers and things like that. So this concludes the applicant workshop portion of our meeting. Thanks to you all who attended and have participated. We really do value the work that you do in the community, and we look forward to reading your applications. And I know this past year or even 2 years ago when you applied, and then using the funds this past year was very challenging with COVID, and you never know what the future will hold, but we definitely appreciate your flexibility and your resourcefulness. And I don't know if all, I know some of you definitely were here. Earlier in the fall, we did have a review of the different activities and things from the prior year. We would plan to do that, I think, again this coming fall. So it's nice. These are some of the few meetings where we have the direct interaction with you guys, and we look forward to it and very much enjoy it. So thank you. All right. Moving on. We now have the time for commissioner and staff reports, and I'm going to start with staff reports. Any comments that staff has?
Great, yes. So just one thing for me, we don't have a meeting in February, but our next agendized meeting is March 8th. At this time, we don't have any regularly scheduled items on the agenda, so I wanted to ask for direction regarding any items for that meeting.
Okay, and I'm going to just make a quick comment here in the beginning and we can have some discussion. When we did our debrief, because as we've noted that last year we did change our process following the community needs assessment, needs analysis, and we debriefed and we just talked about making sure that we were all going into this cycle with common understanding of different things. I would like to meet, if you guys are in agreement, in March as a short meeting just to kind of review what the expectations are. We did have that new process last year. A number of us were there, but then we've had some new commissioners join as well. So I just think it's always helpful just to make sure we're going into the process with that common understanding.
Having been the new commissioner last year, I think that would be really good for our new faces to help get us all on the same page and kind of just remind us all.
I agree. I mean, it's a lot to digest. And we did all agree in our debrief that we would do that, so we should probably have that meeting.
Okay, so I don't think since it's already agendized, we don't need to vote, but we have consensus, it sounds like, that we will meet in March, but we won't meet in February, so you get another month off. But the applicants don't. They're getting all their applications together. And then February 3rd is the deadline for the applications. I think everyone now has the login for ZoomGrants on the commission. So, after February 3rd, I think even during, you could go in there and just verify that, A, you can get into ZoomGrants, and then just as you're navigating around, we actually, I think we'll have for our very newest commissioners and for staff, we'll have a session where we can review some things, and I'll coordinate that with staff and we'll contact you. So that way you'll at least have some experience prior to going in and actually reviewing the applications.
And I think for the agenda for March, too, it'd be helpful to have some helpful hints for the new commissioners on how to navigate that program. There are some things we've learned, and I've had a little cheat sheet, and I thought that was a lot of help from the other commissioners, too.
Yeah.
Maybe we can provide Tricia with a few things that she could just jot down that we'd make sure to cover or something.
No, I think that would be great. We can chat about that and as we're planning for that meeting, definitely. All right. So are there any staff, or we did staff reports, are there any commissioner reports, comments?
This is Commissioner Perez. I'd like to thank the nonprofits for showing up tonight, taking time out of your evening, and I'd like to welcome our new commissioners.
Yes, welcome to our new commissioners. We're happy to have you.
And maybe staff could just remind us how we can communicate with our new commissioners. It's just a one-on-one, or if they want to reach out to us individually, but not in a meeting or a big group, just so they understand. If they have questions, they're welcome to ask, but they can't, ask the whole team or something. Maybe you could.
Yeah, so for individual questions, if you have questions that staff can answer, I would start there. For specific questions, don't have a communication that triggers the Brown Act issue, so no quorum. No serial communications where you're forwarding the same communication through, so you eventually talk to everybody on the commission. That'd be a Brown Act problem. And then no reply alls as well. We can talk maybe outside of the meeting if there's specific issues that we want to address, and maybe we can collect the information and provide it to our new commissioners directly, so we don't run afoul of any of that.
Okay. Very good. And then any clarifications as far as the scoring and application process and ZoomGrants and such, we can cover at our March meeting, which will be a public meeting and designed specifically for that. So
Very helpful.
good. Okay. All right. Well, I think that covers everything tonight. And if there's nothing further, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Perez, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Haywood seconds.
All right. It has been moved by Commissioner Perez and seconded by Commissioner Haywood that we adjourn the meeting. I don't think there's any discussion, so all those who are in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. And it sounds like that motion carried unanimously. Thank you all very much, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.